Welcome to Wichita's Biz That Is. I'm Tim Witzman, president of the Wichita Independent Business Association, and today we have an old friend of WIBA's. Terry Lewis is the owner of Linc, and he has done work for WIBA, which we appreciated in the past. But welcome, Terry.
Thank you.
People I think are always interested in kind of the background, like where you started, and take us sort of the journey up to Linc.
Well, I have been thinking about this for the last few days since you've talked to me. And I can remember back when my father was a machinist at the refinery over in Augusta. Two of his sons, or my brothers, were machinists. So I asked him, should I come into machinery? He said, don't get into electronics. He said, there's always a need for somebody fixing a TV. So I stepped on into electronics, and when I went into the Navy, I was in the communications industry in the Navy. And from there I went on to Southwestern Bell. I've been working with Southwestern Bell for 7.5 years until they did the big downsizing when they broke up Bell System back in '76. Then after that I worked for several companies here in Wichita, and 21 years ago I started Linc. And I've been working with Linc and progressing and growing and changing my the way I do things and the things that I do for my customers.
Well, as an old Navy guy, I'm a little interested. When you were in the Navy, what did you serve on? What kind of
I served on an aircraft carrier, and I spent 3 tours in Vietnam on an aircraft carrier for search and rescue.
Very interesting. Did you enjoy it?
Oh yeah, I had a lot of fun when I was in the Navy.
So why did you get out?
Beg pardon?
Why did you get out of the Navy?
I found it was a better industry out on the private sector. So I spent a lot of time doing that.
Did you learn a lot when you were with Southwestern Bell?
Oh yes, oh yes. I learned a lot of things about how customers work and how they deal with both residential and business and industry and commercial.
So mostly how to deal with customers.
Right.
Okay. Well, let's describe Linc now. Tell us about your business.
It started out as a installer of just telephone equipment, and we worked with that for about 10 years. And from that we went into data communications. About 10 years ago we started with data networking. We build networks, we build voice and data networks, we put in phone systems. And even my logo is a double ring logo indicating the old analog or old style phone system, and the other ring is the new style or the internet protocol systems, which now are integrating, and those rings will all become one because that's the next generation.
Did that force you to learn a lot of new things or not?
Oh yes, oh yes. I've had to learn a lot of things about data, about how phones and computers work together and how they communicate and how they have to be installed, and the indicating of what's going on.
Well, I think sometimes people get a notion somebody has a business and, well, they just kind of sit there, give a few orders, and go play golf. But it's a little more complex than that.
Oh yes, the businesses and even residential doesn't realize the value of communications. They use it all the time, but yet they don't put the high priority on communications, their voice and their data. And so therefore, when I come into a business and tell them what they've got to do, they don't understand that. So I have to sit down and explain to them why and how things work.
Well, I must tell you, one of the things that has always irritated me is I like a system where you can pretty much count on it's going to work. Now, they always have some failure, but you never get past that. But it's one reason I like the phones where, you know, with the internet, I lost email on one of the 2 things we run, you know, for a week last week. A week?
Yes.
That's bad.
Oh my gosh, yes.
You know, so it's that uncertainty that I don't like, you know. The new technology I do like. God, things like the internet, my heavens, the stuff I can research now, it would have taken me months to come up with something I can come up with in a day today.
Well, I've watched a lot of changes in the industry since I started out in 1966 with communications in the Navy. And even today, there's a lot of changes that are being made. I've watched, for example, the fax machine. The fax machine started out many years ago, back in the late 60s, and they're now finally leaving. They're gone. People are using emails. They're taking attachments to emails. That's all what we're doing now instead of faxing. So faxing has come and gone just in my lifetime.
But it's also interesting how dependent we are on people who know how to do these things. When I was in the Navy, there were two guys. They were the most important people on the ship. One was the chief in charge of the sonar, and he knew everything. Plus he never went to college. He spoke 7 languages, calibrated all the sonar in the South American navies. This guy, and he'd just sit down there, and when something went wrong, they'd call him up and he'd come up and fix it. And then there was a guy who did the long-range radar, which was shaky. It was hard to keep it going. And boy, when we went put in to a port, he could do anything he wanted, but we had to know where he was every second because we didn't dare leave port without him.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, the communications in the Navy was really rudimentary, and they had to be because you couldn't have complexity in the Navy or in any service as far as that goes, because complexity meant that more things could break down.
Yep.
So we kept it very rudimentary or very simple, and as a result, many people out of and I've found in the general public think things should be simple.
Yeah. Well, I may be one of those people who likes a little simplicity.
Well, and people think that phones are simple. Well, nowadays they are not simple. They're very complex.
Oh, I know. I've bought my mother a phone. She'll be 95 this summer, and it is a challenge. Yeah, she's already won't use the button on the back for the panic. So we'll be back, not in a panic, in just a moment with more of Wichita's Biz That Is. Welcome back to Wichita's Biz That Is. I'm Tim Witzman, and my guest today, Terry Lewis, and we've been talking about technology. Maybe one of the things to ask, since you've been an owner for 21 years, is what are the changes you've seen? What's different today than when you started?
When I started, we were still using the second generation of communications, which was digital. Digital communication was a big thing, so I've done a lot of work with digital equipment, digital systems. The change has been coming now is through IP, Internet Protocol. IP is the communications through the Internet, or Ethernet is in a local area. And the communications between the world and your home community, and your own house, your own home, or your own business. That has changed tremendously because now we've integrated the Internet with the phone communications.
You don't employ people, I don't think, or do you use them as contract?
I have contractors that I use.
What kinds of things would you tell to young people who are coming out? You know, one of the things that I notice is that a lot of young people think that if you get a degree or something that makes all the difference, but they lack skills that somebody will pay you for.
Yeah, in the industry that I work into, which is the physical communications. In other words, I do the physical work, go out, actually wire a building, put in equipment, and that sort of thing. With a college setting and with degree setting, they do a lot with theory and with overall communications, and I do specific things. And so I would encourage anybody that come out of college to spend some time with somebody like me, or the companies that employ people to go out and actually physically put the network together. They would learn a lot about how networks actually work, and how the equipment works, and how people use the equipment. People use equipment differently in every business, and they have different expectations of all of that equipment. So learning how that happens makes a big difference. I think that the The young people now need to spend time actually hands-on.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's what we need in schools, really, is an integration of the academic and the skills, so that people can have both.
It's an industry in which we still need a lot of physical things that have to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Physical things such as the phone has to be sitting there. It has to be connected to something. There's a lot of use with Wi-Fi now, but that's still a shaky avenue to go with Wi-Fi. Although there's a lot of cell phones, but the downside with a cell phone, if you're in a business situation, if you get a phone call, you can't transfer that call to another person. You just have to hang up and dial again. And that's what a phone system does for you.
Well, I've been reading Benjamin Franklin's autobiography. Never finished it, but it's still very interesting. And one of the things you pick up is that this guy learned how to do so many things. I mean, he kept getting hired by people because he could do more than anybody else could do,
Mm-hmm.
and do it really well. But it was all on the job. He just learned all those pieces.
And that's the way I've learned things, is basically what we call OJT, on-the-job training. And everything that I've done has been directly related to something that I have done before. And my dad, bless his heart, told me to use common sense.
Oh, well, that's not a bad bit of advice from Dad.
That's right. And I've used that ever since I was a little boy, is to observe everything that goes on around you and use common sense, because that gets a lot of things accomplished.
Anything else for young people? I realize if people are doing more like installations and stuff, they perhaps don't need as many as the soft skills, but we sure hear from companies that the kids coming out are short on soft skills.
Short on soft skills is true. My son does a lot of work with programming.
Mm-hmm.
He did a job in Oklahoma City where he designed, engineered, and built touch screens
Mm-hmm.
and for restaurants. He's gone on from that and it's got him a really good job, but his is soft skills. He couldn't go out and actually wire a business or put a phone in or something like that.
But he can deal with people.
Oh yes, oh yes. He's a manager in a business down in Dallas right now, in which they do programming for large corporations. But if he come up to do what I do as a little guys, it would be different for him. And so I would encourage young people to get into working with small companies that can physically get out and build things.
Mm-hmm.
When they build things, they learn what's going on, and they can work with the customers and find out what their needs are and be able to accomplish that.
Very good. What do you see trending? Where are we headed in the fields that you're covering now? What do you see is coming?
Well, there's going to be a lot more Wi-Fi, but the Wi-Fi is going to have to be controlled by the customer themselves a lot more. There's still a lot of dangers with Wi-Fi, in my opinion. And Wi-Fi.
Go ahead, tell us about the dangers. Huh?
Well, I'll give an example of the WIBA when they built their first building.
Mm-hmm.
They asked me to put in Wi-Fi, and I told them to check it out. When they poured the slab, they sat down in the middle of that slab, and they hit 4 different Wi-Fi networks. And so I told them, I said, if you have somebody that walked in across the street behind that apartment complex, they could still get into your system and hack you, and you would not know it.
Mm.
So there is dangers of people sitting a half a mile away and getting into your system with Wi-Fi and hacking you. And because of the dangers we have with hackers now, especially in the government that's having some problems with some issues right now.
Oh, yes.
We're going to add Wi-Fi to it where you can't see your hacker.
Oh, my. Well, we'll end on that somewhat cautionary note and take a break. We'll be right back with more of Wichita's Biz That Is. Welcome back to Wichita's Biz That Is, and our guest today, Terry Lewis with Linc. Terry, I just want to do maybe one more question in this area, and then we're going to move over. What is it that businesses should know when they talk to you? What would be helpful if they knew what they were talking about?
Well, when I ask a business what is it that they use with their communications, both voice and data, I would like to know how they operate. I would like to know the kinds of things they expect from their system. Mm-hmm. From there, I can engineer and design a system that will function the way they want to. Because so many companies get out there and they build a system and they've got their own expectations. It's not the customer's expectations. I would like to know what the customer wants.
And that's kind of like it used to be in computers, you know.
Oh, yeah.
We've got the big box, and you can have this box or the other guy's box.
That's right.
And that's what you can have. And good luck.
And what I do is I buy a basic box, and then I put in that box what they need mm-hmm. to function and to run their business.
So tailoring things very much. Well, I know that you spent a lot of time with the Lions.
Right. A
good group. Talk to us a little bit about that involvement and why you do it.
The Wichita Downtown Lions Club, of which I'm a member of, is a 90-year-old club. Mm-hmm. The oldest club in the state, the first club in the state. Yes, and it's the largest. And it's been around, Lion International has been around for probably 95 years, so mm-hmm. it's been around for quite a while. The Wichita Downtown Lions Club spends a lot of time working with the youth and working with the blind and hearing impaired. Mm-hmm. The Wichita Downtown Lions Club is in partnership with the YMCA at Camp Hyde. Camp Hyde is a day camp for underprivileged kids, and they go out and spend the day working, having horses, swimming, whatever. And that Camp Hyde is down at Lake Afton. It's a wonderful location for children, and we as a Lions Club support that. We also mentor with a school here in Wichita, which we take children and sit down and talk to them about their reading habits and help them read. Mm-hmm. Go into the library and sit down and work with them. And we also have a Wichita Downtown Lions Club has an annual pancake feed, pancake and sausage every year.
Which he sells me a ticket to.
Oh yes, 57 years we have been doing this. So it's been a tradition in Wichita that has been maintained. We've served as many as 4,500 people in a day. And all that money that we gather goes to like Camp Hyde and other things that we do. Every year at the school that we like to sponsor, what we do is every year at the Christmas time we buy a gift for every child in that school. And that's something that the Lions Club does, and we really appreciate doing that.
Well, I've always been amused that Hollywood kind of makes fun of civic club type things. I'm a Rotarian, but I'll tell you what I like most about people in those groups, because from the outside I might not have, decades ago when I was younger, not seen it this way. You're surrounded by a bunch of constructive people. Everybody's trying to do something helpful. I mean, the Rotary's got a little different mission, but it's the Lions, you know, how can you be unhappy with people who are trying to do that?
Right. I don't know what the cinema likes to deal with, the Lions Club or Rotary or
it's making
Kiwanis or Optimus or whatever, but they all these civic clubs provide a benefit, whether it be Lions or the others. They all provide a benefit, and that benefit is to help someone.
Right.
And we're always there to help.
It's very American. It's the old de Tocqueville thing about Americans. If they see a problem, they'll form a group and fix it.
That's right.
And that's the way we are. Well, that leads me a little bit to WIBA, our organization, and you've been a member for I don't know how long.
It's been 2002.
2002.
13 years, 14 years.
Tell me sort of how you got into that and what did you find of value?
When I joined the WIBA, I was searching for a organization or association that could help me in my business. I found out about the WIBA when you were still working, we had your offices on South Main. Mm-hmm. I stepped down there and Cliff Soanes sat down and talked to me and was a very personable individual. Mm-hmm. And I found